FM94, The Dark. It is that time again. And, well, it's normally time to get to know a new artist, but this is a band that's been around for many, many years. I think it goes back all the way to 1990 when it started. We're talking with Adam, the bassist of the band Candlebox. And exciting news here, too. And if you haven't heard yet, they're coming to Halfway Jam on Thursday, July 28th. Adam, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, JZ?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. And, of course, the fans around here are very excited for Halfway Jam coming up this year. And it should be a great jam down there, 3 days of festivities. And you guys are going to kind of be kicking off the first night there on Thursday, July 28th. Are the boys ready to go?
Oh, yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. We're getting like I said, our summers are really happening, kicking into full gear. We got a good run going, so we're looking forward to it. We should be in full swing by the time we get around there.
We'll talk about Halfway Jam in a little bit, but let's get back to the band Candlebox. And, I want to talk just a little bit about the kind of the history of this band and how the band all got started. And you guys have been around for a while. Give us a little bit of that. How did this band really all come about?
Well, I mean, the band started in the early 90s in Seattle. Kevin and Scott Mercado, the original drummer, they were like friends in high school, and they actually asked Kevin to come down and sing on some demos, which ended up being You and Far Behind and all that good stuff.
And it's crazy that I think I had it early 90s there. That kind of was the turnover from the hair bands to the grunge rock at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a huge change. But, it's like anything else. I mean, the music out of the 80s at the end there had gotten almost like a caricature of itself, you know what I mean? And so when that Seattle scene came in and it got hit with just such a real sound compared to what they were doing at that point, it swung back the other way, And it's luckily both eras exist next to each other now, but at the time it was almost like a war of cultures,
Yeah, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit because I wanted to talk about you kind of saw that transition from obviously the 80s hair band to the grunge, and then you saw the grunge to now more of today's active rock. I guess, what are your feelings about the rock industry today that it was maybe 30 years ago?
Well, I mean, I think, the same thing happens now that happened then, which is, people get hot onto trends and they tend to walk away from a lot of good music, and they tend to bring in a lot of music that maybe isn't as good at times just because it's all part of a new sound that everyone gets excited for. And I think that goes on all the time. I mean, there's, right now everyone talks about active rock, but, there's so many bands that fit into that and are on the outskirts of it. I mean, we get lumped in with it sometimes. I don't know that we're an active rock band. We've got other friends of ours that are on that circuit too, and it's interesting that everyone tries to get a label and put everything in that box. It doesn't always fit, which is good.
And, you mentioned that you kind of, where do you fit, kind of, get pigeonholed at some time. But I guess, how has the band Candlebox revolved here over the years with the changes of how the music industry has been?
Well, Candlebox has been in a great position because the band has a lot of great fans, and regardless of what we're calling the rock of today, and where people want to position everything, we've always got those people that love the music, that love the band, that come out to us. So we've never really been part of a new sound. I mean, it came out of the Seattle thing. Even then, everyone wanted to try to call the band grunge, but it's really a blues-based rock band. So the band's been very fortunate. We've kind of drifted amongst all these labels, but the fans have kept us going all these years. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, and the fan, that's the hugest thing right there, is the fan base. And to have a fan base for so long is a gratitude to what you guys do out there. You got to love that, don't you?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, you hear people say it all the time. It almost sounds like a cliche, but it really is true. I mean, if you don't have people that come out and want to hear your music and support you, first off, you won't be able to do it. And secondly, then what's the point if people aren't digging what you do? There's no reason you go start another band or do something else altogether,
Right. We're talking to Adam Curry, the bassist of the band Candlebox. They are coming to Halfway Jam. They'll be there on Thursday, July 28th, rocking the main stage at 6:30. A great lineup that night. You got Finger 11 there, Soul Asylum after you, along with Theory of a Dead Man. Let's talk about that for a minute. Obviously, right now you're on tour. You're out with some other bands and stuff like that. How has the touring scene been as of late, and kind of who are some of the bands you've been hanging out with recently?
Well, I mean, obviously there's certain, the bands you mentioned that are on the bill there. We've played shows with them over the years. You cross paths with certain people. You see them again and again. And we've been very lucky. I mean, I think the majority of people out there, bands-wise, everybody's very cool. They all know that we're lucky to be doing this. We're grateful. It's kind of a bit of a team effort. I think that everyone's, kind of like just wanting to put on a great show overall. And so it's been great. It's a very great communal feeling with what's going on out there.
Now, Candlebox, you have now 6 studio albums out. You guys put out stuff in the early 90s, 93, 95, 98. Then you took a little break, came back with some stuff again, and now you have a new album out, which is called Disappearing in Airports. I guess give us the lowdown of this album that you guys have out, which was released back in April by Pavement Entertainment. What's the feel of this album?
Well, actually, it's interesting you use the word feel, because the one thing about this record is it has a very loose and energetic feel to it. It was done really fast. We just went in the studio. We didn't do a bunch of pre-production or anything. We knocked it out in just a few days. And basically, we caught just a good vibe. We have a couple of new guitar players in the band, and it just sparked a whole experience for us. And I mean, everyone seems to feel that this is probably about the best thing we've done. So I mean, obviously, that's up for the fans. So hopefully, they'll get a chance to listen to everything if they haven't yet, and they'll start to appreciate it. But as far as we as artists go, I mean, a lot of times we don't actually go back and listen to our records that we've done because we did them. So we don't spend a lot of time listening to them other than to learn things or research it. But this is a record where all of us are enjoying listening to it. So for whatever that's worth, we're digging this one.
And of course, obviously, you have a lot of arsenal. What I mean by that is you have a lot of stuff that you've played over the years. What are some of the favorite songs, I guess, that you as a band love playing on stage live?
Well, obviously, the set's really great. We're fortunate that we have a lot of great songs to pull from. But I think, like, energy-wise, one that's always just a great, consistent vibe for me is Arrow. I mean, that one's just such a great rocker. There's a lot of stuff on this new record that's going over really well. Maybe most of the set we focus on the first record and the new record, and we'll pull like one or two off of the others in between. But those are the ones that people know the most and want to hear the most.
Yeah, I mean, that was my next question. What's the one that really gets a rise out of everybody in the stands? I would assume it's probably, either Far Behind or You, one of those two?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously those ones go over really well. Everyone wants to hear them. But, it changes from night to night, too, as far as those ones are kind of like the easy answers as far as, people are going to dig them. But it's on a nightly basis, there's different points in the set where a certain audience will, light up onto a certain song. And we've got room for a lot of, improv and a few things, and we can kind of jam. So what we deliver each night's a little different at times, too.
And of course, you've done a lot of touring over the past. I got to believe you've been in Minnesota a few times. Do you have any memories of Minnesota at all? Are there anything that you can air audibly?
Yeah, well, a lot of it. Luckily, fortunately, we come through there in the summer most of the time. But I remember coming through a couple of years ago, and we had a January show. And I remember I felt so bad for our crew because they were loading out at the end of that show, and it's snowing, and it's 4 below zero. And I'm like, we're not used to that. We're warm weather people.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to promise you this. It won't be snowing July 28th at Halfway Jam, okay?
Well, we hope not, although I have seen hail in Denver in August, so anything's possible.
It is. Hey, I want to get to know a little bit more about you, Adam Curry. What's in your music collection maybe right now that might shock the listener, going, well, Adam's listening to this? What do you listen to?
I'm kind of all over the map, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going back a couple of years now, but every once in a while, maybe once a year, a band comes along that really I get into that I hadn't heard before. And Tame Impala is a band that I've been really digging lately.
Okay.
It's not really like a hard rock thing, so to speak. I actually just ran into, broke out some old Wolfmother stuff the other day I hadn't heard in a while. I'm all over the map. I mean, I got a 9-year-old daughter, so I got Disney tunes in my collection as well.
Hey, I got 3 daughters in that range too, basically 10 and 12. So I feel you, man. I feel you.
That's right. So you're getting plenty of Katy Perry in your collection.
Oh yeah. I'm getting everything. Let's put it that way. How about some current active rock bands right now? I know that you said kind of Candlebox kind of floats around. Not exactly sure where you would pigeonhole yourself in, but I guess on the active rock scene, what band or bands are you kind of digging right now?
Well, actually, funny enough, it's a transition band right now. Some friends of ours that did this for quite a while, Royal Bliss.
Oh yeah,
they're opening up. They're opening up their sound. They're bringing in a little bit of almost a southern rock sound into their thing. So they're kind of walking this line on active rock and all this stuff. It's going to be an interesting transition to see if a band can keep their active rock roots and also expand out into some other markets and everything,
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I've talked to Neil before, Neil Middleton, and he's got a hell of a voice.
Oh, he's amazing. And the nicest guys, too.
Absolutely. If you had to put together a 3-band bill to play with, Adam, who would you love to play with? And you might have already had your 3-band bill ever put together since you guys have been together so long.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about including us in and 2 other bands?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think right now, I would love to tour with the Foo Fighters. I mean, I think that would be probably every rock band's ultimate dream at the moment. But then I'd have to resurrect somebody out of a fantasy world, like maybe a Zeppelin or Cheap Trick's still around touring. They're another great band, great influence,
Yeah.
Maybe we'll dig Jimi Hendrix out too.
Let's talk about that for a second. Like Cheap Trick and stuff. These bands that've been around for a while are starting to make some noise again, aren't they?
Well, I think like anything else, when a band or anything, whether it's music, anything, it gets hot, and then people get excited about it, and they'll go to it a lot, and then they get tired of it, and they look for the new thing. And they kind of forget about it. And then after a while, people come back with the stuff that's really good, like you say, like a Cheap Trick. People go back and go, oh, yeah, those guys are amazing. And then they have this resurgence because now suddenly they're fresh and cool again,
Right. How tough is it, Adam, right now for new artists coming up compared to maybe when you guys came up back in the 90s?
Well, it's definitely harder. I mean, it's more wide open. There's room for a lot more stuff. But to actually break through and get to a point where you're a band that can tour on a regular basis, it's tough to do because, it's expensive to tour. And, to get to that point where you have enough fans and you have shows that are big enough to support you driving around the country with all of your equipment, it's actually, it's tough to do. So to get to that point, bands, they lose a lot of money in the beginning for years, most of them, So it's a hard thing. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not something you do to go, hey, man, I'm going to join a band and get rich. It's a lot of hard work. So the people that are out here doing it these days, they love what they do.
Well, I was just going to say, you have to have a passion to do this because if you don't, you're not going to succeed.
Oh, of course. No, it's like I say, with everything in life, the brochure looks great. People look at all the highlights, but, there's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of times fans are like, hey, there's this band. I love them. I don't know why they're not doing anything. Just honestly, it's hard to get a band to get out there and get a fan base big enough to tour.
Hey, let's ask you this too, since you've been in the business for a while. Rock radio itself, how much has rock radio changed over the years? And not so much, like in the format kind of things, but getting your song on the radio.
Well, I think that it's always been a challenge. I think that right now, I think that the record companies don't seem to have the influence they had back in the day.
Right.
So I think it's getting on the radios. It's a different cut, it's a different angle. Obviously there's certain stations that have playlists. There's certain stations that are more open to open programming. But I think it's just a little more chaotic getting things to cover.
Right. All right. I got to ask you this question. I've always asked this question to all the artists that I do interviews with. And you might have been asked this question in the past, but what artist would you like to cover one of your songs? So what artist out there would you like to cover a Candlebox song?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I haven't even really thought about that one. But, I'll go back to my Foo Fighters answer, because obviously if they picked up one of our songs, that'd be huge for us. But that's a good question. I'll have to put some thought into that one. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, you can get back to us. Let us know when you come into Halfway Jam here on the 28th. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk backstage, so then we can find out exactly what that answer is. Ask the guys in the band, too. Because, you watch or you see and you listen and you hear like Taylor Swift and all these other people doing rock song, like they're not doing rock songs. The rock artists are doing the Taylor Swifts, but you never see it the other way around. And I'd love to start seeing that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens. I think the thing with somebody like a Taylor Swift is when you get to that level of success and fame, who do you cover? Because usually you're covering an artist you're aspiring to, but if you're like basically the biggest in the business, where you go? Right,
exactly. But still, I'd like to see a little bit more of maybe the pop, even the rap or the rock, the rap that is culture. Maybe embrace a little bit of the rock. I guess you have, I'm assuming, friends on both sides of the spectrum. I guess how do you guys work out together? You know what I'm saying? Do you play fair?
Well, no, I think so. I think that there's, the thing is when you're talking about different music styles, is it's tough to get together and get relationships with people and build on that, because you're not often on the same bills together. And honestly, that's where you meet most people, is out on the road. You're part of the same package, part of the same festival. So, we kind of get a bit stuck in our own pool. But I think everyone's into it. I think obviously in the 90s there was a big thing between the rap and the rock, and everyone tried to fuse it. And then they tried a little too hard, and then they left it completely behind. But it's probably time to come back and start, blending and blurring some lines a little bit again, I think.
That'd be awesome. All right, you guys are going to be here at Halfway Jam. We're talking about Candlebox, Thursday, July 28th. What should the fans look for that night in your concert that you're going to have there?
Well, for us, it's just we're just a straightforward rock band, and I think that if you're a fan of rock music, I know that sounds cliche and weak, but if you're a fan of rock music, you're going to love it, because that's what we deliver. We're a straightforward rock band, no frills, no special effects, no anything else, and it resonates well with our fans. And every time we play, we have our fans that have come to like their 20th, 30th show, and then we also have a bunch of people that are like, oh my God, I hadn't ever seen you guys before, and this was great. So I think everyone will love the show either way.
Awesome. Well, have a great next couple of weeks here touring, and we're looking forward to meet you guys up here in a couple of weeks, and hopefully you jam out at Halfway Jam.
Definitely, you got it. Thanks, JC. Appreciate your time.
Once again, that is Adam Curry, and of course, he's the bassist of the band Candlebox. They're going to be there Thursday, July 28th on stage, starting at 6:30 at Halfway Jam.